Okay, it looks like the technical issues are solved. It's 6:05 PM and welcome to Yucca Valley. So let's start this meeting with the gavel. We have the meeting of the Yucca Valley Town Council on today, Tuesday, September 17th, 2024 at 6:05 PM. So let's see here. We had closed session. Is there anything to report out of closed session?
Thank you. The council met in closed session with respect to the one item on the closed session agenda, and there's no reportable action. That concludes the report.
All right. And let's do our roll call.
Council members Abel.
Here.
Dennison.
Dennison here.
Schooler.
Here.
And Mayor Pro Tem Droz.
Here. Let's see here. So now we have the Pledge of Allegiance. So I didn't ask anyone ahead of time, so I'll do it myself. So please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now we have invocation by Pastor Paul Miller, Good Shepherd Lutheran Church. Thank you.
Thank you. Let us pray. Our gracious God, our creator of all things, sustainer of all things as well, we thank you for the opportunity to meet and converse and counsel regarding the needs of our community of Yucca Valley, and we ask you to bless this evening's meeting. We pray for those who will serve in various capacities, the counselors and staff, that you would bless them with words that would be pleasing and well-meaning for the blessing or the well-being of the community. And we pray, Father, for the first responders also who are battling many wildfires at this point, even some local firefighters being volunteered into that. And we pray for our local law enforcement and EMTs and firefighters who minister to this community as well. We pray also for those citizens who are in want or need in our community, that they would be attended to and provided for. And so tonight's meeting, we would ask that you would bless it with being conducted in a civil manner, speaking words of encouragement and well-being. And so we ask you bless also those who are listening, attending, whether live streamed or in the audience. And whatever else and whatever things else that you would have us, Lord, to pray, we leave it into your hands. In the name of Jesus, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor Miller. That was perfect. So now we have presentations. We have Morongo Unified School District bond measure information.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is a request of Morongo Unified School District Committee, if I recollect that correctly. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Clare and Mr. Vargas. Thank you for coming this evening.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Thank you for your time this evening. I guess Dr. Lombardo in absentia, the council, staff, and the public. Some of you are starting to maybe get to know me a little bit. I'm a local guy. Went to Joshua Elementary, Yucca Valley Elementary, Yucca Valley High School. Honestly, those schools look the same. I don't, but they do. We're in a dire need of a pretty big upgrade in a lot of our schools. I'm sure Mr. Abel can attest to that too, as being a teacher at one point. Really what we're looking to do, I'm actually the chairman of the Yes on Measure C, so that's who I am, and that's why I'm here this evening. We have facilities as old as 100 years old in 29 Palms at the junior high. We have aging facilities in our stadiums. We have 27% of our classrooms are portables. So they're supposed to be temporary structures, but we've had many of those probably 30, 35 years. So what we're looking to do is raise enough money, and this is gonna raise $88 million. And what this will help us pay for is that a lot of these upgrades that currently the state is not gonna be able to fund us. We know that they have a big deficit right now. So relying on them solely for facilities funding is just not going to happen. So really what we want to do is put our students in the best position for the jobs of the future. So we're looking at improving, creating STEAM labs. We're looking at possibly even performing arts center, improving a lot of our multi-purpose rooms so that if any of you parents have been to, say, a Christmas play or even an award ceremony at any of the schools, they're bulging. There's not enough capacity for our students to really I'd say, maximize their educational experience. So we are asking for your support, and we are open to any questions that you may have. So thank you. I'll defer to Dr. Vargas.
Good afternoon, members of City Council and distinguished members. I just wanted to point out something that I haven't provided you with an update in regards to the district. And I know you're all invested in the district because it's part of our city. And I want to share a couple of things. I know we just had, the Emmys Awards. I don't know how many of you had a chance to see them on TV. And we also had the Oscars that were for highlighting the best movies of the year. For school districts, we have something similar, and it's called the Golden Bell Award. And the Golden Bell is given to districts that have outstanding programs, projects, or something that they're doing right. When I joined the district in 2022, I asked how many Golden Bells have we gotten? And the answer was none. So I said, we need to highlight and we need to look for the programs that we need to show the state how well that we're doing. We actually applied for a Golden Bell in 2023, and we received one Golden Bell. And it was for the garden teaching program that we have at Yucca Valley Elementary School. So congratulations to Yucca Valley. That's our first Golden Bell for Morongo Unified School District. This year in 2023, we said we need to apply again. We apply again, and actually we are to receive a second Golden Bell in December for the Grand Works Arts consortium that we have to support the arts with our students in their schools. So kudos to the district, what they're doing, and the way we're moving forward. And not only that, but we are reducing the number of subgroups of students that are in need of support, that are underperforming. In 2022, we had 11 subgroups underperforming in the district. That's alarming, and that's not good news. 2023, we had 4 subgroups underperforming. And for 2024, this year, we have 1 subgroup underperforming. That is remarkable across the state for a district that is moving forward academically and how we're doing the things that we're doing. But in order to do that, like Mr. Clare stated, we need the facilities to do that. We need a new performance art center. We need shelters in our playground areas. We need better facilities that we can be proud of, that we can continue the work that we do. And so this is what we're proposing, Measure C, and we ask for your support to actually continue with this work. If you have any questions, Mr. Clare or I can help you with that.
Thank you very much. Does anyone in the public have any questions online or in person here? If you want to know more about the measure? No? Anyone here behind the dais?
Just curious, thank you for the presentation. Curious about the Performing Arts Center. How high up on the priority list is that? And where would that be? Do you have a location for that?
So both high schools asked for one. And so we are deciding if we are going to do one for each, which I don't think is going to happen, but it's going to be one that may be in the middle of both. And that way we can provide opportunities for all the students to come to that one. So right now is in the high priority list, one performance arts center for both high schools to join efforts and all the students to enjoy that.
All right, thank you.
I want to congratulate the district. I've seen a lot of improvements with student safety, and that's a big priority, I know, for the board as well as the supervisor. So I just want to let you know that I've noticed there's a big difference in student safety. I think it's really important for people to understand that your measure is for infrastructure, for buildings. It's not for salaries. It's not going to any other things other than improving the quality of the facilities so that we can educate our students in a cleaner and safer environment. Is that true?
That is correct. And also, people may be confused with the ballot measure that is at the state level for facilities as well. And they might think that, hey, if we have a ballot measure for facilities at the state level, why do we need a local one? Well, in order for us to qualify for the funding from the state, we need to have matching funds. That means that we need to have the funding. If we are asking for $80 million, then the state can fund us up to $49 million in matching funds, which will go a long way, I mean, in what we're trying to do.
All right. Thank you for being here.
Councilmember Dennison?
Thank you very much for joining us this evening and giving us a briefing on what's happening. My kids, I've lived here for many years, since the 70s, but my kids were born and raised here and always attended public schools and had an excellent experience. I'll tell you, their immersion and their relationships with their teachers, to the point where they used to actually invite them to their birthday parties when they were little kids. So Yucca Valley Elementary School, La Contenta Junior High School, they had a music program at the time. Yucca Valley High School had an excellent music program for a long time, along with all the sport events that they were able to join into. So great job on the school. They have some of the best teachers, I think, anywhere. You just can't beat that. In 2020, there was another attempt at funding through a bond, and so now this one here, Measure C, there were a couple things that I saw in there that it said it was the bond is primarily focused for improvements to the infrastructure of the school and not for salaries and personnel. But there's a statement in there that says under evaluation needs, that the board hereby certifies that it has evaluated safety, class size reduction, and information technology needs. So the class size reduction, I was wondering how that's accomplished without having additional staff to break down those class sizes. Is there a way that you manage classes or balance it throughout the district through transportation, or how does that work?
So that's a question that, if we are looking into that, is how do we divide students more holistically across the district and in a more equitable way? Because at this point, there are schools that are so tiny that they actually end up with combo classes and classes that are too large. And so that's what we're trying to look into, ways to minimize that and maximize this number of students in each classroom. So, but it won't be used to pay for teachers. It will be used for classroom spaces and spaces that will be better utilized for that.
Okay, and thank you. And one of the things that I always look at, for me, safety and safety through security measures are always paramount, and to ensure that those programs are, those goals are met prior to probably looking at other things that would be lower down on the list. The Performing Art Center is very ambitious, and it was during the last bond measure. That was an item that was highlighted. But it seems that, I know with our construction in our town, that those dollars get consumed very fast in large infrastructure projects like that. But making sure that those safety items are there, to protect not just the students, but all of the staff and anyone else that happens to be a guest of that place. So I'm looking forward to seeing the improvements to our schools and keeping them productive and as good as they've always been to me and my family.
Thank you.
Thank you. I wanted to touch on one other thing. I apologize. We want to be good stewards of the money, obviously. So the nice thing about this measure, every penny will be spent between Morongo and 29 Palms. So the money cannot be clawed back by the state. So your money that is coming off your tax bills will be going straight to your students here. Another reassuring thing is that we'll have an oversight committee. So it's not going to be Dr. Vargas and the board, dictating where all the money goes. There's going to be an oversight committee that makes recommendations where the money's going. If they feel the Performing Arts Center isn't a priority or these sort of things, then the money won't go that direction. Safety was actually number one by the public and the staff. That was the number one concern. And we've done a lot of improvements already, but we're going to continue to enhance that so that all of our schools are very safe. So thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate the presentation. Thanks to you both. Next, we have on the agenda the approval of the agenda. So does anybody want to move the agenda forward?
Mayor, I'd go ahead and make a recommendation to approve the meeting agenda as prepared.
Second.
Councilmembers Abel.
Yes.
Dennison.
Yes.
Schooler.
Yes.
And Mayor Pro Tem Droz.
Yes. Next is the consent agenda. All items listed on the consent agenda are routine matters of formal documents covering previous town council instruction items. And let me put my glasses on, sorry. And are enacted by one motion and a second without separate discussion unless a member of the town council or town staff requests dialogue on a specific item at the beginning of the meeting. Requests for public comments on the consent agenda items should be filled out by the town clerk. So does anybody have anything they want to pull from the consent agenda? Any council members? No? Okay, anybody want to make a motion for items 1 through 6, 2 through 6?
Mayor, I'll move approval of the consent agenda, items 2 through 6.
Dennison will second.
Schooler and Dennison.
Councilmembers Abel.
Yes.
Dennison.
Yes.
Schooler.
Yes.
And Mayor Pro Tem Droz.
Yes. Next, we have a public hearing. Development Code Amendment DCA 04-24, Accessory Solar Energy Systems Ordinance Number, an ordinance of the Town Council of the Town of Yucca Valley, California, amending Chapter 9.42, Accessory Solar Energy Systems, limiting review of small residential rooftop solar energy systems to non-discretionary review by the town building official pursuant to California Government Code 65850.5.
Mayor and Council, this evening, Nevin Willoughby, Assistant Planner, will be providing you with the report, and we'll be happy to answer questions following the public hearing.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and council members. The recommendation for this item tonight is that the town council finds the project is exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act pursuant to section 15061B3, which states that if an activity is covered by the general rule that CEQA applies only to projects which have the potential for causing a significant effect on the environment, and where it can be seen with certainty that there is no possibility that the activity in question may have a significant effect on the environment, the activity is not subject to CEQA, and that the town council introduces the ordinance amending chapter 9.42 accessory solar energy systems of Title 9 Development Code of the Yucca Valley Municipal Code. For background, this is a state mandated regulation, so this is a relatively routine item that we're required to make a few changes for that are pretty minor. Just walking through those. The regulations that you can see on your screen right now are the proposed regulations that remove the standards for rooftop solar from the development code. What remains is our standards for accessory solar structures such as ground mount or pole mounted solar, but those will continue to be regulated under the development code. Once again, the recommendation has been read into the record, and I can answer any questions following the public hearing.
And just to read into the record, this is an ordinance of the Town Council of the Town of Yucca Valley, California, amending Chapter 9.42, Accessory Solar Energy Systems, limiting review of small residential rooftop solar energy systems to non-discretionary review by the town building official pursuant to California Government Code Section 65850.5.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone in the public that would like to ask any questions or have any comments on this, online or in person? No? Okay. Let's take it back to the town council. Anyone have any questions on this?
Close the public hearing.
Oh, close it now? Okay, so I'm closing the public hearing.
This is encouraged by the state of California just to help push rooftop solar into a faster track and not have all the regulations?
Correct. It
Okay.
prioritizes the residential rooftop solar in the state of California.
Okay, and it's now required for new construction anyway, correct?
That's my understanding.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, I'll make a motion if there's no other questions that we would approve it.
Dennison will second.
Councilmembers Abel,
Yes.
Dennison,
Yes.
Schooler,
Yes.
and Mayor Pro Tem Droz.
Yes. All right, the next item, department reports, number 8. Small residential rooftop solar energy systems, an ordinance adding Chapter 8.15 Small Residential Rooftop Solar Energy Systems of Title 8 of the Yucca Valley Municipal Code.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and council members. This is a little bit of deja vu. But the recommendation is that the town council finds the project is exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA, pursuant to section 15061B3, which states that if an activity is covered by the general rule that CEQA applies only to projects which have the potential for causing a significant effect on the environment, and where it can be seen with certainty that there's no possibility that the activity in question may have a significant effect on the environment, the activity is not subject to CEQA, and that the town council introduces the ordinance adding chapter 8.15 small residential rooftop solar energy systems, title 8 of the Yucca Valley Municipal Code. This is a similar background, but just an additional note that the state mandates the town allows electronic submittal and review for rooftop solar. Building and safety staff have indicated that the electronic submittal system, which is Solar App Plus, will be ready for implementation around mid-October. And the language of the proposed ordinance is in packet pages 175 through 179. So once again, the recommendation has been read into the record, and staff is available for questions following public comment.
Evan, do you want to talk a little bit about the electronic submittal and what's going to be happening to the town process on electronic submittal?
So the town will be accepting electronic submittals specifically for residential rooftop solar. That will mean that there is no longer any planning review in that process, no longer any planning discretion in that process, and it will be solely through building and safety that it goes through that review and inspection.
So it's state mandated that cities and counties have electronic submittal capabilities for rooftop solar. In addition to that, we are working on a transition in building and safety for all submittals to be electronic within approximately 12 to 18 months. And that's just a side note on other activities in the department. This is an ordinance of the Town Council of the Town of Yucca Valley, California, adding Chapter 8.15 Small Residential Rooftop Solar Energy Systems, limiting review of small residential rooftop solar energy systems to non-discretionary review by the town building official pursuant to California Government Code Section 65850.5. That concludes staff's presentation. Be happy to answer questions following public comment.
All right, thank you. Public comment. Is there anyone online or in person that would like to comment on this item, number 8? I see none. Anyone on the town council? Anyone like to say anything? No? Anybody want to move on it? I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Councilmembers Abel,
Yes.
Dennison,
Yes.
Schooler,
Yes.
and Mayor Pro Tem Droz.
Yes. Next we have, and thank you, Evan. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next, we have item number 9, Planning Department Annual Presentation and Report.
It is all planning tonight.
Yeah.
The recommendation for this item is that the town council receives and files the report. So I'm just going to kind of give you a background on what we do in the planning department, how we try to avoid breaking any laws, and kind of day-to-day activities. So this slide has an overview of what we do. The state mandates that we adopt general plan and zoning regulations and have a planning commission. So our job is kind of to support those things. That's our primary role. Update our general plan, update the development code when necessary, whether that's new laws or some public necessity. And as you've probably seen and will be seen in the very near future, we're doing a fair amount of development code amendments currently. So you've either seen them or will see them shortly. And then that last bullet point is we also manage environmental review for projects. So making sure that state environmental law is not violated by either us or any developers or property owners. Staffing includes me, Evan, and Janet Yakimowicz, who could not be here, but I think most of you probably know Janet. And then we also have contract consultants for CEQA projects, or CEQA projects that are beyond our abilities, I should say, and for special large projects such as like a general plan update that requires extra help. General information about our kind of day-to-day activities. We're open 7:30 to 5:30, Monday through Thursday. We're in the office every other Friday, but not open to the public, but we are answering emails and catching up on work. Day-to-day activity, we're at the front counter, we're on the phone, answering emails. As you can see under zoning inquiries, we get a fair amount of phone calls, emails, and people coming up to our front counter. On a busy day, I would say the 30 to 50 is per person. So me and Evan will get about 30 to 50 calls, emails, walk-ins each. If it's a slow day, it might be 30 between the two of us. But there are many days, I could speak for myself, where I'm on the phone and the phone is still ringing as I'm on the phone. It's pretty rare that my phone is not ringing. So we're talking to people constantly, developers, property owners, concerned citizens, et cetera. We're responsible for processing land development applications. So if someone wants to build a new restaurant or a retail store, what have you, we do everything from answer their initial questions to stamp the building plans for the planning portion of the building review. So kind of that whole process for new commercial development. And then that last bullet, as I mentioned before, we're also responsible for updating the development code for both policy changes and for state mandates. Just this slide is highlighting some of the customer service activities that we've been working on lately. We'll go into more detail on number one, but we now have a GIS zoning map, so an electronic zoning map that's interactive. A resident or interested developer can type in an address or parcel number, get the zoning information. If there's a underlying tract map, parcel map, general plan information, it's all there. It's just one click away. As long as you know the address or the parcel number, you can look all that up. It's pretty handy, even for us. I know I use it probably every 20 minutes. I'm clicking on that map. Pre-applications is a type of application for developers. It's a relatively low cost for them to get technical review of their projects, usually hypothetical. Sometimes it's imminent, but a developer or property owner can come in, say we're interested in doing XYZ with the property, and we tell them, oh, you know, this is a process you have to go through. There might be an environmental concern, engineering review. You might have to add a sidewalk, for instance. So it takes all of the guesswork out of it for developers. They know exactly what's coming down the road for when they go through the process. Takes out all the surprises. If there's in lieu fees, we typically also provide that. So there's zero surprises for developers if they choose to go through a pre-application. The next type of application, preliminary application that we have is Development Review Committee. Similar to a pre-app, but it's a briefer review. So we meet with developers or property owners for about 15, 20 minutes, and they more or less pick our brains, ask us type of applications they'll need to do, if there's any concerns with their project, just to kind of take some of that guesswork out, help them kind of clean up the design of the project. So if they do have a question about, will I have to do this sort of application, or will I have to install a sidewalk, we can answer that before they go down the road of designing the project and applying for a formal application. For emails and phone calls, we typically try to respond the same day, if not the following day. This also usually applies to the counter because we don't like to leave people overnight at the counter. There's a lack of food in the building, so they would have difficulty making it to the next morning. Number 5, basically pushing land use projects would be us checking in with the developer, making sure they don't have any questions. If they do have a question about process, we can kind of talk to the various departments. We will sometimes act as middle people as it goes through the process, checking in with the other departments, seeing where things are, reporting back to the Planning Commission, et cetera. And then number 6, town planning web pages. So these are things that we provide to anyone who clicks on the website to help take some of the guesswork out of their project. So on our applications page, you can see all of the applications, the required fees, et cetera, and also links to the development code. So if you're applying for, let's say, a conditional use permit, there will be a link to the conditional use permit regulations, sample conditions of approval. So again, taking out the guesswork. If you're concerned, do I have to water the project site so many times a day? That's in there. There's no guessing. It's all laid out. Anyone can click on it. Planning maps. So if someone's wondering, am I in a fault zone, flood zone, what zoning district I'm in, am I in some sort of a special overlay? All of that stuff's available. And as I mentioned, the new GIS map includes most of that data as well. So there's multiple places that people could gather that information. Again, so it takes the guesswork out. No one's surprised that they're in the flood zone, hopefully.
So why is this important? The developers look for known outcomes. They want to know timelines, and they want to know what they're going to be required to do at the end of the day in order to fulfill their dreams of their project. The town provides this information up front, and Jared and Evan will show you this evening, even on our webpage. Say your project requires a conditional use permit, we already have draft conditions of approval for what you should expect coming down the process for your project. That's before you've even applied to the town for the application. We have a free process where you can sit down with planning, engineering, building, and safety for 20 minutes, and we're going to tell you specifically, here's what you're facing, here's what the issues are, here's what likely you're going to face for your project. So the town provides all of this information. You can sit at home at 11 o'clock at night with a glass of wine, and all of this information is available to you at your fingertips. We've been working, this GIS-based zoning map system has been a kind of a dream for about 10 years, and kudos to Evan and Jared for pulling it off. They're going to show it to you this evening. It's really, really an amazing tool, but I just want to emphasize the customer service focus of how the town approaches development, the amount of information that we make available, where you don't even have to walk into the office to obtain that information. So Evan, back to you and Jared.
So the last couple of bullet points, there's also a webpage with Joshua Tree information. So our policy on submittal requirements, lists of arborists. So if you don't already have an arborist or biologist that you'd like to use, we have a list that someone could choose from, but they can also, of course, use their own arborist or biologist for that stuff. And then lastly, the last bullet point is the fee schedule. So if you're going to apply for any planning application, you can see how much it costs beforehand. It's all laid out and on the webpage. And also, we have the development impact fee, DIF calculator. So if you're going to build a commercial project and it's 10,000 square feet, you can plug in, I'm going to build a commercial store. It's going to be 10,000 square feet, and that will give you exactly how much development impact fee you're going to be writing a check for to our building department when the time comes. So all of the fees are very upfront, very transparent, very easy to find as long as you can get to the page. One sec while the computer catches up. I don't want to click too many times. We might be frozen. Oh, success. All right, as Shane mentioned, back in May, we presented the new GIS. So that stands for Geographic Information System. It's basically the interactive maps that you see that you can click on a property and get information about it. So that was presented to the Planning Commission back in May. It's been active since that point. As I mentioned, we use it all day, every day. Evan developed that for the most part with very little input from anyone else. So this is an Evan special. I'm going to let him present kind of a little walkthrough on that system.
Okay, so before I click to the next slide, I tried to take a video of my screen giving kind of just an example of a person using this map, navigating the map and our development code to potentially assess areas for their project. So let's see if that video works. One more time. Okay, so they're currently on our development code webpage for industrial districts. They're scrolling through to see what permit requirements are for various uses, trying to see if their intended use is located there. And they identify that there's outdoor vehicle storage allowed there through a conditional use permit. So a person can now pull up our general plan and zoning map and open up the filter button to look for that industrial zoning district. Where is that specifically located without everything else cluttering the screen? They can zoom in to those various areas, take a closer look, get an idea of what they're working with, if it's developed, if it's a vacant area. Then they can turn off that filter now that they have a better idea, take a look at the legend, see what other zoning districts and general plan districts there may be. Maybe they don't like that base map and prefer to see it overlaid on something darker or lighter. They can also modify that to their choosing. And then getting to the actual layers that are included, the general plan land use layer is just one of them. There's also an underlying assessor parcel layer, which allows people to actually search by the assessor parcel and pull that up. So they made that a little bit more transparent. That table there contains your general plan, zoning information, any special policy areas, and they can click on links to go right back to that development code section. Maybe if they started on the map, they can pull it up, or the general plan to find any number of those chapters that could have information about that special policy area. And also go to the assessor parcel layer to find the parcel number, and then the assessor parcel map if they wanted to figure a little bit more out about the property. A few layers that are now included in the map that weren't there when I recorded this video is a tract map and parcel map layer, which would allow one to bring up the underlying tract or parcel map, whether it's from the 1960s or 2010. They can find that information at their fingertips. I think that's the end of the video. I'm happy to answer any questions.
So this system is available to anyone who can access the town's webpage. So realtors, brokers, developers, property owners have access by and can look up zoning, general plan designation. You have the links then into your development code, what the standards are. This is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So hats off to Evan and the team for pulling this together.
Very good.
All right, I'm going to bore you guys with a few more slides. I'll try and go a little quicker. So workload changes in the past couple of years that have altered how we work. Tourism, so basically short-term vacation rental management and license management, I should say, has altered. So the volume of applications has decreased over the last year or so, but there's still quite a few applications you'll see on the following slides that require a lot of Janet in particular's time. There's over 600 active licenses, so you can imagine violations, updates to applications, changes in local contact, reapplying for applications, renewing applications. It's virtually a full-time job in and of itself. The other significant item is the listing of the Joshua, or the protection of the Joshua tree. Not quite listed, but essentially. On the one hand, it's taken the review off of our hands to Fish and Wildlife. On the other hand, it has complicated the environmental review process, and where many projects might have been exempt from CEQA previously, they are no longer exempt because of potential impacts to Joshua trees or to other related biological resources. So we are talking to Fish and Wildlife on a regular basis. We're talking to our CEQA consultants on a regular basis. So that activity has actually increased. This is some data on short-term rentals. In the calendar year 2023, we received about 100 applications, approved about 93 of them. Those 7 usually are withdrawn or for some reason, wrong jurisdiction, whatever the case is, or they're still in the process and just haven't gotten around to finalizing their permit. So total active licenses at the time of typing this PowerPoint was 616, but they change every single day. New application, an application expiring, a property changing hands, et cetera. So that number goes up and down every single day. Complaints for calendar year 2023, it's kind of a summary of the top complaint categories. 90 complaints in total. The majority of them are noise complaints. Now that the regulations have the noise monitors at the project sites, it makes it very easy for us to verify whether a noise complaint is valid or not. We can just check the data. It takes 5 minutes. It's extremely helpful. Followed by occupancy complaints. Maybe a property can only have 12 people, but they currently have 54 people. That would be that type of complaint. Trash complaint, most commonly, why are the trash cans still at the curb? But also sometimes my neighbor's trash is all over my front yard. So that's trash complaints. 24-hour contact. Typically, someone called the 24-hour contact. The property owner might have changed their contact and forgot to update Janet. Not a super common complaint, but it does happen. And parking complaints, typically, there's 54 people at this short-term rental, and they're all parked in the street and all over the place. So that would be that type of complaint. Not super common, but not unheard of. Native plant permits. This is for all the regulated native plants that are not Joshua trees, so most commonly Mojave yuccas and California junipers. Those are the most common. Anytime there's a construction activity that involves ground disturbance, we ask for a native plant permit to make sure none of those resources are being destroyed without checking first. So the highest number of permit applications was in January with 68 applications. And then the least were in December with 11 applications. So we look at, or specifically Evan looks at quite a few native plant applications. You can see virtually one every single day, every single calendar day. I'm going to just breeze through this. These are all the applications we keep track of. These are all planning specific applications. So conditional use permits, address request, general plan amendments, sidewalk mending, native plants, massage establishments, signs of all kinds. Up there at the top, short-term rentals, special events, temporary use permits, track maps, subdivision, and variance. Those are kind of our main ones, I guess you'd say. These are the ones we see most often. So for minor, what we call minor permits, short-term vacation rentals, sign permits, home occupation permits if someone's using their house as a business, a small business, temporary use permits if someone most commonly wants to have, let's say, an RV during construction or some sort of other temporary structure, and then special event permits if someone wants to have a special event at their business or at some other location. Major permits are ones that generally require more review. Planning Commission looks at these ones. Typically requires some level of CEQA review, environmental review. So these are generally new commercial businesses or businesses that are expanding. Conditional use permit, site plan review, and land use compliance review for small expansions. Here's a summary of the permits, major permits that we've processed in the last year or so, and a couple ongoing ones. So we got Starbucks West in front of Stater Brothers, Charter, Time Warner, that's on La Contenta, a small expansion. Vertical Bridge Monopine is a telecommunications facility that's currently going through the process. Sun Mesa Mini Storage is up north of Buena Vista off 247. That's currently going through the process. Tumbleweed Sanctuary Special Event Center is currently in process. High Desert Times is a small retail store that was approved. Star Cafe, same thing, fairly recently approved restaurant cafe. Nice Stream ISIS is going through the process and currently under construction. We just received their landscape plans today, updated plans, so they're making progress. Evoke Modern Lomita Motel was a proposed motel up on the mesa. Palo Alto, we have a fiveplex that was recently completed. It's in operation now. And then we also have a fourplex that's going through the process, the approval process. So Palo Alto is getting a total of potentially nine new dwelling units that would be helpful for people looking for apartments who need that sort of dwelling unit. There's a Primrose Design Studio. It's an engineering and design office that's still in process, I believe. Yucca Trail Mini Storage, so mini storage facility on the northwest portion of Old Town, currently in process. Wamigo Gift Shop and Bakery, also currently in process in the industrial area of Old Town. Sunflower Drive Art Studio and Residency is an art studio and teaching facility up off of 247. They just recently submitted last week. La Casa del Tequila is a small bar in Old Town that recently was approved. They're going through the building permit process. If permit has not been issued, it's imminently being issued. Tiny Ponies outdoor patio expansion was recently approved by the Planning Commission. And then Las Palmas also has a proposed outdoor patio, which is in process. With that, we can answer any planning questions following public comment.
Whoops. Thank you, Jared and Evan. Is there anyone in the public that would like to comment on this? Oh, sorry. Yeah, I guess so. Is there anyone, any council member that would like to comment?
I just want to say thank you very much for working so hard, the team over there, to digitize our permitting process or to start that journey. And, we start off at small. And then Evan, great job on the ArcView, all that data that you put together and the drill down that it has. I'm going to get a glass of wine at 11 o'clock, and I'm going to sit there and check it out. So, yeah, no, it's fantastic. That's really something I think that people can, I think you were talking about building their dream property, whatever it may be. That's kind of how you start doing that, is kind of see where things are and how it's working. So I think there's a lot of great things happening in planning. Appreciate all your work. You guys are doing a great job over there.
Yeah, Evan and Jared did a fantastic job. Evan, that's a lot of time into that map system, and I saw that on the web page. There's like 13 different maps, including trails and all kinds of different things. So I could see that getting the word out is important, because you're like, a lot of this they could have looked up online, and so getting the word out. So I know, like at our builders and realtors meeting, that little video clip was neat, how you went through it and saw how you were accessing different things, because I know as a realtor, we get a lot of questions and so forth on use of facilities and so forth. The CUP, that's a way of seeing what the building previously was used for, or what it's currently used for, and what it could be used in the future?
A conditional use permit is usually for new commercial construction. It's the land use entitlement.
How do you get the information on this particular building was used as a restaurant back in the 50s, or, how do you have that history?
Usually it's a records request. That's on the website as well. So anyone can request any information about any building, and that kind of sends us either through our electronic files or in many cases through paper files. So we will send Evan to the warehouse and have him spend the day there. And then we basically email them all that data.
And on a recent one, it was on the old bookstore in Old Town. The Morongo Basin Historical Society has an extensive collection of photos. And a local builder was helping the new owner from Los Angeles on that property, and found photos of when that bookstore building had been a restaurant. And that's part of the land use that they wanted to have in there. And so historically, it had been a restaurant, and there was no permit process required for them to go through. So there's a number of different sources that can be used to answer that question.
And I know this isn't your department, it's more like building and safety, or building and with permits and so forth, but I've noticed a lot of times when you're going to see like previous permits and so forth, when we incorporated, we started keeping records, and the county sent some records to us, but there's a lot of records of permitted buildings that we don't have a record of. Is that something we can look into in the county, perhaps continuing to provide us records of buildings or homes in Yucca Valley proper?
So guys, you want to talk about the process where we can request files?
Sure. So it's pretty common. So generally speaking, our records from the county go back to approximately 1980, depending on the property. So if it's an older property or we're missing some sort of records, we have a contact at both the assessor and land use services. So the assessor can give us what they have records of, and if they're missing any data about building permits, land use entitlements, et cetera, then we can check in with land use services, county land use services, and they can provide that information. It's kind of a case by case, but we have contacts at both of those county agencies to kind of give us extra information if we're missing anything.
And what, on average, what kind of, I'm sure it's very time consuming, how long would that take to get those records forwarded to you?
If it's the assessor, it takes about an hour. They're pretty quick. If it's land use services, I would say up to about 2 weeks.
Okay. So a property owner could make a request for permitting from when the home was originally built or when the garage was added and all those types of things, and allow about 2-3 weeks to get all those records sent. And then once they're sent to you, then they go into our database, and then in the future, you don't have to go through that process.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Okay. Well, thank you. It's very impressive. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Jared and Evan. I do want to say, Evan, that's quite an accomplishment, doing that GIS map. I love GIS maps, so that's really neat. I'll have to check it out. So this is a file and receive, so receive and file. So I guess the town council just received it, and Leslie's going to file it, right? Okay. Thank you very much. Now we're going to go on to number 10, San Bernardino County Transit Authority Council of Governments COG update.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. We have a number of really kind of different presentations for you today. Mine's not nearly as exciting as Evan and Jared's for sure, but something that's important as you'll hear both from myself as well as your SBCTA rep today. We're just going to give you a quick update on the Council of Governments and what the current work plan and activity of that is. So what is SBCOG? Well, instead of me going through this, we do have a better introduction of SBCOG and what it is. So if you want to roll that video, hopefully we have that queued up.
The San Bernardino Council of Governments, or SBCOG, was formed in 2016 and is guided by elected representatives from its 24 member cities and towns and the 5 county supervisorial districts that serve San Bernardino County residents.
SBCOG is when we take local and regional leaders and we bring their concerns together to create opportunities for our future where we work collaboratively as a region to further our interests.
SBCOG is funded through membership dues as well as through various programs and utilizes their funds to help fill in the resource gaps for local agencies, particularly to address broad, long-term policy matters like greenhouse gas emissions, housing, promoting healthy communities, public safety, and more.
SBCOG gets together and we figure out what our local priorities are to champion causes that we move forward on a regional basis to benefit everybody in this area.
For more information on SBCOG, visit gosbcta.com/SBCOG.
All right, thank you. So again, in simple terms, it's just a group of all of the cities in the county under the coordination of the San Bernardino County Transportation Authority. They have a separate division, if you will, the Council of Governments. And it's to identify what regional areas can be worked on together in terms of priorities and different activities that need solutions. Interestingly, if you think about 24 cities in San Bernardino County, there are a wide variety of cities. There are a wide variety of priorities. Go everywhere from the west side of Chino and Chino Hills all the way out to Needles and everywhere in between. And so trying to identify what concerns and priorities could fit in the Council of Governments was a real challenge. And ultimately, under the leadership of the board, SBCTA board, the desire was to expand the scope of the Council of Governments, identify what some of those areas are, but maybe break them up into regional aspects. And that's what we are currently underway with now. The COG update timelines, this is the work plan policies of the current direction that's been provided by SBCTA board. And so we are currently in that board ad hoc general policy committee, city manager TAC, in developing what those regional areas are. So under that third line there, we did the sub-regional meeting, and that's kind of what we're going to highlight this evening. Some of the long-standing functions of the SBCOG, probably the most familiar one to the council is going to be really the simplest one, and that's the city-county conference. So you can think of your experience at the city-county conference bringing everybody together. That is a function of the COG, but there was a lot more that the board envisioned that the COG can do on behalf of individual cities and towns. In that process, I think probably the most valuable aspect of the scope of work that's being promoted by the COG now is there are areas where the COG can do things on behalf of all of the cities, like the city-county conference, some of the grant applications. But there are also regional aspects that might only apply, for example, to the Morongo Basin or the East Desert areas. And so it was kind of developed as a menu of options that was highlighted when the town decided to participate in the housing trust. Some of the bigger cities, Rancho Cucamonga, Fontana, Ontario, they don't need SBCTA's COG to help them with their housing needs. They already have their own separately funded programs. But smaller cities like Yucca Valley, 29, Needles, and Yucaipa, we could benefit by some of those subscription services. Just as a quick, it's a little bit hard to read here, but all of the Council of Government activities fall under the Regional Planning and Program Director, Steve Smith. You may have met him at SBCTA. And then Monique, who you've had here at your meetings multiple times, is really running the COG. And then now, as it expands, we'll have 3 additional positions. The work plan is primarily based on the San Bernardino County-wide vision and the number of areas that are identified in that vision, not only for county priorities, but also as they relate to individual cities. Some of the board-directed functions in the increased scope that the COG is working on are identified here. And then again, just concluding now the regional aspects of developing the work plan. We're falling in that green area there for the Morongo Basin, identifying what those limitations might be, and we'll talk about that limitation in one of the recommended actions that the town requested. And then ultimately they wanted to ensure that it was deliverable so that we can evaluate whether this expanded scope for the Council of Governments continues to make sense. The original work plan, as identified by some of the subcommittees, had some of these county-wide areas of importance and prioritization, including homelessness, the Clean Cities program, some of the other ones that were related to the fire and communications that the county is involved in. When they came to the regional areas, and these are the ones that we've highlighted in green here, these are things that came up. In our sub-region, we had the opportunity to meet with Yucca Valley, 29 Palms, Needles, and Big Bear, as well as county representation for the unincorporated areas. So street vendors was a big priority. Thought that there may be an opportunity for the COG to assist in working with the county to develop a framework to address those concerns. Other ones that were brought up were an animal shelter that was, I think, brought up by 29 Palms as they undergo that process. Identifying what impact the Olympics may have in outlying areas like San Bernardino County as a whole. One of the ones that we had brought up was item 20, the multi-species habitat conservation plan. And you'll see in the notes there, that was one of the ones that the COG quickly identified as potentially infeasible, and that goes back to the costs that are involved and the timeframes that are involved in that. So while we identify it as a very high priority, not sure that the COG is ultimately going to be the vehicle that makes any progress on that. So these regional priorities are included. This will continue to go through in the next steps and be identified and discussed by the General Policy Committee. Ultimately, we'll go to the Board of Directors for approval as a work plan for the enhanced capacity of the Council of Governments. We thought it'd be very helpful to have the council hear from the SBCTA side of what the Council of Governments is working on. And so with that, I turn it over to the SBCTA Vice President, your own Councilmember Dennison.
Well, thank you very much, Curtis, for that introduction. So, yeah, you know, the COG is fairly new to myself. You know, I've been on the Transportation Board for a while. The COG has really started to get some better understanding amongst all the cities. So while Curtis said there's 24 cities, there are 2 towns, and this is Apple Valley is number 2 and we're number 1. So that's how I always present it to Art Bishop there, and we have a good time with it. But one thing about COG is that it's really trying to find something that we have in common with others that we can probably put together plans that aren't really a heavy lift for the most part. I think Curtis had talked about prioritizing a little bit, but we come up with a strategic plan, and that's the list. I carry this one around, which is basically the same thing that Curtis had shown on the screen. And these are all the items that we feel like that we could manage as a cog and be able to apply it to most of these 24 cities and of course the 5 county districts too. So all of us are in participation to try and make these happen. And it's just back to that story where if we're all pulling in the same direction, we'll probably accomplish things a lot simpler than doing it individually and coming up with different plans. The homelessness portion of it and strategic planning for that is something that's a common across all areas, but it is a very heavy lift because of the resources that are required to carry out a plan like that. So we have a lot of work to do in the back end before we can really properly tackle that. But some of the things that I brought up locally for us is they had talked about a fellowship program. That was number 2 on the list that you saw. And these aren't in priority. They're just a laundry list, and we're trying to apply a prioritization to those so we can get those launched easy. But the fellowship program was a partnership with CSUSB and of course UCR down there to where they could get students in there that were interested in probably working with government and other groups that we work with. Kind of like a mentorship or partnership. And these interns that they want to have, there was never any discussion of it in our area. So we said, well, we have College of the Desert and the Low Desert, which many people to go to. Riverside County may be interested in it, but for us, CMC, of course, would be an excellent resource to have someone in there that may want to participate in this program and do it locally. Because what we're trying to do is trying to get these programs in our areas, and that would be something that would be very valuable to groups and still not really take a lot of resources and dollars to do, I feel, if we got it done. We talked about clean cities, and we're starting to get there where we're looking at zero emission vehicles, so we're putting in our infrastructure to manage that. But larger things, like planes and trains, we don't really have that piece of that out here. That is more of the inner city around Ontario and those kinds of things. One thing I brought up too was our CAD to CAD, and I'm sure the captain will be aware of this, that they're trying to break down the barriers in dispatching to where the calls, we can shave minutes off of response times, and that's something that is already in place. We just need to work as groups to apply that within our jurisdiction so we share that information. So the old days, they were handing off from one agency to another, and so these are the kinds of things that the COG works on. It's a little bit out of the transportation wheelhouse. And just briefly, I'll talk about one other thing that I'm very proud of. There's been a lot of discussion. Curtis mentioned it quickly, which is in the animal shelter business, the world that we have out here, and our partnership with the county and the town has been fantastic. They do a fantastic job. They really set the bar high, but not all areas have that. They have a lot of challenges with managing the animals that come into the shelter and keeping quality personnel in there to take care of those jobs. So those are some of the discussions going on when they work on strategic plans, that maybe when you find one of the best practices in our own county or our own towns, that those kinds of discussions could come on and remodel those somewhere else. Once again, reducing the work of recreating the wheel. The list is long, and Curtis has it on the presentation. I can get a copy of it too, just for all of us to think about some of the many things that we're working on in the background that aren't transportation. So it's a great board to be on, and it's very interesting work. So thank you for that opportunity, Curtis.
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember Dennison. With that, Mayor and Council, Mayor Pro Tem and Council, conclude staff report. Be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anyone in the public that would like to ask any questions on this receive and file item? No?
Anyone in the hallway?
Hello? No? Okay. Anybody on the town council? Questions or anything? Okay, well, this is receive and file. So again, we'll receive it and Leslie will file it. All right, next item on the agenda. Number 11, public records request presentation.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So We're going to talk a little bit about public records requests. Could I get the clicker? Thanks. But it is your lucky day, because we're not going to delve too deep into that. We want to make sure we all stay awake for just a little longer. So our public records requests that we get from the public are guided by the Public Records Act. And we follow that. It has different components, from timeframes to what is a public record, what isn't, what exemptions there are, whether are whole record sets or just certain information that's included within the record. So as the town does business, we create paperwork, we create records. Could be anything from written content, data or databases, photos, email communication, the applications that Jared and Evan mentioned earlier. All of those kind of create different sets of record types. So our town records are retained based on the town's adopted records retention schedule. And in that schedule, it tells us how long we have to keep the records, in what form we keep the records, and basically if they're permanent or not permanent and that type of thing. So as we go through our records request, there is a standard 10-day deadline for the town to determine if we have such records. There is a little bit of confusion where it seems like most folks believe that we have to respond with the records within 10 days. The town, as our staff, we do try to respond within those 10 days, just because it is kind of a common thought that they think that that's what it means. But it actually is that we need to find the records and let the requester know if we have them or not, and when we will be able to release those. So it's kind of just a little nuance difference.
Leslie, I'm going to interrupt you. If you go back to that previous slide, that'd be great. Sometimes it takes people, when they join our town team, it takes them a little bit to figure this out. We try in their orientation to let individuals know working for a public agency is completely different than working for a private agency. There really is no expectation of privacy. If you operate, and this is the message that we try and get to all of our employee team, is if you operate as if everything that you do is open to the public, they can see it anytime, they can request it anytime, emails, records, anything that you have written, that's the way that we operate. And I guess there's probably a number of different reasons why, but at the end of the day, what we're doing is the work of the public, and the public has the right to be able to see what's going on at their taxpayer expense, and that's typically what the court has indicated, and the threshold for keeping anything private, there's very narrow exceptions of what you can keep private. And so we just operate to the degree possible with complete transparency, and it makes our process of responding to public records relatively straightforward and easy. And hopefully for our employee team, just operating that way from day one simplifies that process completely.
Thank you. Thank you, Curtis. So here's just a brief overlook on the request activity we've had in recent years. There has, you can see there was a little bit of an uptick following COVID. Most of these are received by email, and most are wanting to have those records sent to them electronically. So in 2022, the town implemented an online request system. And you'll see in 2024, so far, year to date, we're averaging about 8 per week on that activity. So the online system that we implemented is by Next Request, and it was, like I said, implemented in 2022. There's many benefits on both sides, from whether it's a user standpoint or from town staff. The most is that the best thing about it is that everything is contained within the system. So in the past, we would get these emails requesting information. A lot of times they would go to the wrong department, they would go to the wrong person, because the public didn't have any real guidance on where to go for that, so they would just send out an email. So we try to educate, but we found too that by having an online system, the requester can fill out the form automatically, their name, contact information, and that gets sent automatically to the departments, automatically routed, so that they don't really need to worry about who is sending it. So the system also, it provides a tracking number for accountability, so that if anybody needs to reference something, there's a specific number assigned to that request. And as mentioned, all the dialogue, everything is contained. It's an email-based system where the communication just pops up in your inbox, so you know if there's been a document added or any messaging. So it doesn't require any real excess of anything from the user. For town staff, we like that everything's together. We can have dialogue between staff members if we need clarification on what we were really looking for. It's easy to monitor, and I'll show you that in just a moment on the status. So we have the 10-day deadline built into the system so that when it gets close to that 10 days, the item will turn yellow. And then once it hits that 10-day mark, it turns red that it's past due. So it's very visual on being able to see on your dashboard exactly where you're at with each request, and none of them are buried within your inbox that they're going to get lost. So we're going to start the system demo, and I wish I knew, now I know to ask Evan to help me pull up a video on how to use this. So if we go to the town's website, we can just click on that I want to, and it brings up our I want to page. And then we want to find public records. So this is going to automatically take you to that next request system. We can make a request. So here we're just going to request a meeting agenda. And you notice that something pops up there. So there is built in some keywords, whether it's like birth certificate or vital records that we don't keep, we'll refer them over to the county. This one is because we wrote meeting agenda, it's saying you might be looking for this, you can find that here. And then they don't have to necessarily fill in and make that request. So we're kind of guiding them. There's also information there on the right-hand side of their screen that'll help. It's kind of lengthy, but it kind of gives them, if they want to get more information on the system itself. So then here, the department is optional, but we're going to pick town clerk at this time. A lot of our building requests are on building permits or code compliance cases, outstanding violations, things like that. People are doing in their due diligence as they're in a real estate transaction. So we're basically just going through and making this up. If there is also, somebody may go ahead and fill out a paper form across the counter if they want to, or a regular email. If we do get some of those requests, the clerk and staff has an opportunity to fill this in for them so that we can add it to the system, and that way it all stays contained. Okay. So this, it's going to want you to set up an email with and then a password. And that's so that you can always go back and get information. So here you see that it assigned the request 24276. So now we're going to go into, this is the clerk view or the staff view. We'll probably need to sign in again so you can actually see, but instead of doing that, what we're going to go down, yes, 24264. And I want you to kind of take a look at, this is a closed request, but I wanted you to see all that it looks like in contained. So the timeline is based on most current content is at the top of that list. They're looking for building permits for a certain address. You can see on the left where it was assigned to a department. The request, closed request, there's built-in, we've kind of done some templates on responses so that they're consistent and spell checked and things like that. So hopefully that makes it easier for the user and a little bit more professional. If you click on documents on the timeline, next to timeline there. Okay, where are the documents? Might be because we're not signed in and it was staff. So anyway, it gives you an idea of how that, but that's where the documents would be. And then once we say that it's, we're finished with them, they're ready to go to the public, we change the visibility to the requester and staff and close it out. And all of that goes by email back and forth to the requester. So they get those documents in their inbox. So that is the basic presentation on our online system. And the recommendation is that the town council receive and file the update, and I'd be happy to answer questions after public comment if there are any.
All right, thank you, Leslie. Anybody in the public want to comment, online or in person? I guess not. Okay, any council members?
Yeah, I have a couple questions. First of all, Tom, is there a minimum threshold on people requesting records? Like, could get to a point where somebody's just trying to harass the town and always doing public record requests? Or are there any thresholds they have to reach, a reasonable reason for the public request?
No, no, there really isn't. And the reason for the request is something that is not, it's not relevant.
Okay.
So you have to, the town has to respond to all requests.
And Leslie, it looks like the system is designed to where an actual person would have to make the request. A bot couldn't like just randomly hit you in the inbox 100 times on something just trying to glitch the system or get you to be in violation of Public Records Acts. So it looks like you have to download or drop in things and put in your name and all those types of things. So it looks a little bit protected. Most of those requests, you said 8 a day? Is that what you mentioned?
8 per week.
8 per week? That's still quite a bit. Are most of them like from media or people like, I saw the one, was on, permits or building and things like that?
I would say 90% are building permits.
Okay.
Mostly, and any code violations if someone's looking for any problems that they're looking for with the house, that whether it's a new buyer or a new homeowner, maybe somebody even just still in escrow looking.
Yeah, okay.
We do get some larger ones similar on commercial properties where they're looking for maybe detailed information on where utilities might be, that thing. We get a few come in for financial information, wanting contact information of short-term vacation rental holders. But I would say mostly it's the building permits.
Okay, and so there's not so most of those are just things that can easily be handled by one of the departments and so forth. They all seem to be legitimate, or most of them are legitimate. But then they could also request email conversations between, would we be notified as a council member or you as a staff member that, your email correspondence to the town manager are being requested?
Yes, those types of requests go through our town attorney, just
Okay.
to make sure that everybody's on board with what's exactly expected.
And
Yeah.
comply? Okay, very good. And then also, it looks like the system is also designed to where, let's say somebody requests, I need a death certificate for my uncle who passed away in Yucca Valley. Your response could be, this is the proper agency in which to contact, and here's the information. Now you've fulfilled that request by sending them to the right area.
Correct, yes.
Okay, wonderful.
Hey, anybody else? No. Okay, well, that's file and receive. Thank you very much, Leslie. Anybody on the council have any future agenda items for our next meeting or for whenever, future agenda? No? Okay, let's move on to public comment. This is the time for public comments. Do I need to read all that, or? Okay, so is there anyone in the public that would like to comment? This is your time to do it right now. Seeing none? Staff reports and comments.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Droz and council. Captain, anything this evening? Okay, Deborah?
Just real quick, we do have a couple positions open right now, so if you could get the word out and have people look at our website to see what openings we do have, so.
Great.
Thank you. Alex?
Yeah, good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. Just a few updates for the Council. The Senior Center project, the renovation Phase 2, is on its way. We are finalizing the plans and the specification in that project. You will be seeing the notice inviting bids for this project in the next meeting, hopefully, if we get everything settled on that. For the pickleball project, you, as part of your consent agenda tonight, you have approved the plans and specs for that, so we are bidding for it. So we're hoping that we can get good bids on it, hopefully, and we'll get back to the council with that. And just, I'm going to leave the ARC building and the groundbreaking for Curtis. And just for the Old Town update, we, as you can see from the Old Town project right now, we're having the concrete, some of the concrete. The restroom building is scheduled to be delivered mid-October. So we'll see some little progress on that project as we go. So that is my update for now. Thank you.
Terrific. Thank you, Alex. Jordan, I know you're online. You can pop on if you have something to share today. Sue, anything?
Yes. So Community Services is in the transition between spring, summer, and fall, winter. So we're wrapping up our spring, summer programs. They're still going strong. We just had over 60 attendees crammed into the museum for the geology lecture this last weekend. And this coming weekend, we have over 80 runners signed up for the Glow Run. So still wrapping up, summer stuff. So that's exciting. Our new fall winter guide, ready to rock and roll. It's on, the digital version is on the website. Copies will be inserted in the High Desert Star tomorrow. We'll also be mailing 7,400 copies to Town of Yucca Valley residents, and staff will distribute additional copies throughout the community. Has over a dozen newer expanded programs, so we're really excited about our new fall-winter guide. I do want to give a shout out to Ryan Scott over here. For this new guide, this is produced in-house. So we don't hire a graphic design firm to do this for us. It's done in-house. We divide up the pages. This particular issue, I know it's hard to tell the difference, but we went to a more sophisticated software so that we could communicate better and have a better process with our printer. The new software, Ryan came in, trained us all on the software, shepherded us along the way. So, former Recce AV specialist, but a secret graphic design MacGyver. This was so smooth and the production so perfect because of Ryan. because of his handholding with us, all of our staff. So it's a beautiful guide. Also, no stock photos. These are all our residents on this guide. So enjoy it. It'll be out in the community. It's online now. And super shout out to Ryan for helping us with all of that. Went super smooth.
Awesome, and that's produced here locally at our
Yes,
local print
VIP
house as well,
printing.
right?
Yep.
All right, terrific, thanks, Sue. Leslie or Tom, anything? Shane?
Mayor Pro Tem and Council, next Tuesday, the Planning Commission is going to have a kickoff conversation on ground disturbing permits and what standards the town should have in place for those types of permits. I think as the council is aware, State Fish and Wildlife provides no guidance on how close or how far you have to remain from a western Joshua tree during the construction process. The town has set extensive standards, and we've been implementing those standards over the last several years. With phase 2 of the sewer coming up and connections anticipated to begin probably in February of 2025, we want to have the opportunity for Planning Commission and/or Town Council to discuss those standards and make any amendments to those standards as appropriate. Fish and Wildlife will provide no guidance. They will provide no standards. They will tell you, quote unquote, it is a local decision. And so those conversations will begin with the Planning Commission next Tuesday. This concludes my comments this evening.
Terrific, thank you, Shane. Mayor Pro Tem and Council, just a couple of updates. One of the future agenda items that Council requested a couple meetings back was some background information and a possible discussion on housing. It was a relatively broad request, and so I think as staff kind of walked through that, one of our ideas was to provide a survey to the Town Council that will help us shape what that information coming back to you looks like. And so you can look for that. You should be able to fill that out online or in paper. We'll put a hard copy in your box and then a link so that you can fill that out. And then we may even distribute that out to our planning commissioners and possibly staff to kind of think through how people view housing and what some of those needs are in our community. Secondly, we had the opportunity to gather as all staff about 2 weeks ago. We had this room set up as a bullpen, and I think we had around 55 between full-time and part-time staff. We did it a little bit different, where we had the opportunity to have pretty much everybody in their different areas of responsibility share information, and I thought it was very valuable. It was great to hear the interaction between staff, and so I greatly appreciate the participation of staff in doing that. It was a terrific time. Next week, I'll be out at the City Managers Conference in Pittsburgh. Thank you for allowing me to go out and see different ideas, different concepts that are out in this industry, and so we'll be back and report back to you probably at your next council meeting. Lastly, two other things. One, you heard from Morongo Unified on their ballot measure, Measure C. And so this ballot will be a pretty crowded ballot. And so the town will be taking an active role in hosting some meat, what we call them brown bag lunch, where people can bring their lunch and we can do some information sharing on not only the town's measures Y and Z, but also on the other items that are on the ballot so that people are aware and informed and knowledgeable about what they are voting for when they see it on their ballot. So you can look for that. We'll be posting that onto our social media platforms in the next week or so. Whole series of them starting late September and most of October for the public's convenience. And lastly, Alex mentioned it, but everybody was at the groundbreaking, and so we have a little video clip to share of that activity. Super exciting activity for the community for our groundbreaking event.
It's an incredible opportunity for Yucca Valley to have a recreation center of this size and importance. It's going to allow our community to have a place to gather and come together. Getting active and being around your community, I think is going to be just a great benefit for the community.
It's great because it serves not just Yucca Valley, but all the surrounding communities. We live at the hub of the high desert between two state highways. And to be able to serve this community, Joshua Tree, Landers, Morongo Valley, and of course Yucca Valley is quite the honor.
We've come a long way, from the early days, and it's going to give us that year-round programming capability that we've never had before. So as a former director of Parks and Recreation, I'm thrilled to see that we have that capability in town now.
Our neighboring communities don't necessarily have the opportunity to put facilities that are this big into them. And so the county's contribution to this will allow those residents to be able to use this facility, which won't be too far of a drive away. It was really, truly a blessing that the county could contribute on their behalf so that they can utilize it, because otherwise they wouldn't have a facility like this.
I had dreams of having someday in Yucca Valley, having an indoor gym and an indoor aquatic center. It now is going to be a reality. There are kids today that are 7, 8, 9 years old that are going to dream big dreams with that facility. And the sky is the limit. Once you have a facility, the next generation of dreamers can make their dreams a reality.
Thank you so much for your participation, for making yourself available. That scheduling was a little bit of a challenge, but we got it done. That was the easy part. The hard part now comes before us, and that's delivering a facility with the entire project team. We do have a great team, but Shane and I, we don't have much hair to lose, but Alex, we're going to see you in 2 years and see how much hair he has left on his head. But we're excited about doing it. It will be a tremendous amount of work. We make no bones about that. We know that. But we know that the end result will be fantastic for this community for generations to come. So thank you for that. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Curtis, and the rest of the staff. Let's hear. Now we have mayor and council member reports and comments. So Council Member Abel, you're first.
Just had a question for Shane. The scope and size of this next phase for the water treatment, how's that compared to the original phase as far as the number of homes and number of permits we're going to have to be processed?
So and I'll give you town staff interpretation from what we've heard and seen from the district. It is downsized from the complete phase, combined phase 2 and phase 3 areas on that original map. What the district staff have indicated is they're going to be starting in the Country Club neighborhood, then moving around over onto the south side of what we'd refer to as Story Park, and then over into Sky Harbor. We will be happy to provide a map that from the district that shows the areas where they are planning on the contractor performing their work. I don't have a number. I don't want to repeat a number for you because it probably wouldn't be accurate this evening, but we'll get that map and those numbers out to the council in your council boxes.
All right, thank you. Council Member Dennison.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Not much to say tonight. I just want to say thank you to Jared and Evan for coming up. Your skills are appreciated, and it was shown in the presentation tonight. And Leslie, thank you again I know you've been working on records retention and dissemination for a long time, and that's a lot of work. Thank you for making us look good and being responsive, to the community. And also, Ryan, thank you very much. I hear you're a great graphic artist. I can't wait to go grab one of those and take a look at it. But all of you taking the extra time to do a swell job for our town and making us look better and better every day and very professional is so great. I don't think everyone understands all the work in the back end that you're doing and just the leadership that we have that makes sure all these things are running right. I appreciate every one of you. Thank you.
Councilmember Schooler.
Well, I agree. Thank you for the reports. Very informative. We've come a long way in terms of professionalism of our staff, and I really appreciate that. And the capabilities of our website from the early days to now
Yeah.
It's just phenomenal what we're capable of and the information we're able to put up there and share. And it's such a blessing to have that available in our community. So, and then also I'd like to say that we're very grateful to have and lucky, fortunate to have Councilmember Dennison serving on the COG and the the Transportation Committee, and all that you do with the county, and my other colleagues on the council, Councilmember Abel with the Air Quality District, and on the Transportation, or Morongo Basin Transportation Authority, as well as Councilmember Droz, Mayor Pro Tem. We're pretty blessed to have that kind of participation and input in our community and beyond our region. So just thank you for all that you do.
Thank you. And Mayor Lombardo? No. Okay, so I really have nothing to add to that. It was a wonderful meeting, very informative, and I want to thank everybody for their comments. Our next meeting is scheduled for, let's see here, Tuesday, October 1st, 2024 at 6 p.m. right here in the Yucca Room. Meeting adjourned.